Representative Handy, so I definitely think the language has to be cleaned up. Most of the times when people hear about my end of the state, we hear about the Arcadia management area. It's a wonderful thing that we have over 10,000 acres of a managed area. It isn't so great when people want access to it and they put up a gate and they put up another thing to block you and another thing to block you, because what exactly are we accomplishing there other than the fact that we've got this wonderful 10,000 acres of tree area? Town of Hopkinton, I think, has done a great job between its land trust, between the Nature Conservancy and the Audubon Society with the acquisition of a corridor of land that comes through the center of the community in the Natchez area. And the town of Westerly has its Westerly Forest, which is also a wonderful thing. The concern that I see here, once again, I don't think we've thought too much about it, but these last 3 years have been devastating to the forests because of the gypsy moths infestation. To the point, in my town alone, in the town of Hopkinton, there are thousands of trees that are dead that will never come back to life. They are dead. And the town is trying to figure out how to take these trees down because of the danger that they now bring forth to the community, to the wires, and everything else. With the huge tax increase that the town has to implement this coming year, they were only able to put a very small amount of money into the budget to even take some of those trees down. And it's only going to get worse because these gypsy moths aren't going away, and the cycle has them continuing. This year will hopefully be less of a year, but when the gypsy moths aren't bad, the tent caterpillars are bad, and they cause just as much of the deforestation of the area. So, I can understand what you'd like to do here, but, I'm also looking at the fact that we've got a crisis situation with these dead trees in Rhode Island, in these forested areas.
Yeah, I've seen some satellite photos. It does look like a bomb went off in some parts of the state. It's really tragic.
Any further questions? Okay, Vice Chairman Phillips.
Okay, I just want to remind everyone, our procedures usually is the two chief proponents, the chief proponent and the chief opponent gets extra time, and that every other person that wants to testify will get 3 minutes. Please keep it succinct because we have 2 and 3 and 4 pages of people that want to testify. So please be aware of other people's time in that also. So if we can just remind that, we can get through this stuff in a pretty quick order. And I appreciate the time. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pratt, the Green Company.
Good evening. My name is Ralph Pratt. I represent the Green Company. We're a family-owned company that manages a woodland and cranberry bog in western Coventry. Our mission is to maintain the land for our family's use and enjoyment, and we've been doing so for nearly 100 years. We're in opposition to H 5813 because we feel it will adversely impact the ability of private landowners to manage their woodlands. Most woodland in Rhode Island, like ours, is privately owned and managed. Managing a forest is a lot like farming, but it's harder. Trees, of course, grow slowly, and any harvest is likely to take place after you die. Most people manage forests for recreation, also to create wildlife habitat, and also for timber production, but nobody really does it to make money. Woodland management requires a lot of hard work, planning and consultation with a professional forester. Trails need to be designed and maintained for recreation and fire suppression. Poor quality trees need to be removed to promote vigorous growth of healthy trees and prevent overcrowding, spread of disease and damage from storms. Or trees sometimes need to be removed to affect species composition, to improve diversity, and increase food for wildlife. All this work often requires special expertise and equipment, hopefully locally available. And the cost of this work is hopefully mitigated through the production of some sort of merchantable forest product, either pulp, fiber, mulch, chips, pellets, firewood, or specialty timber. These products ideally need to be produced at local mills because due to transportation costs, it's less feasible to turn poor quality wood into product if mills are far away. Bill number 5813 makes no mention of taking steps to promote a local, sustainable forest product economy that would help preserve Rhode Island woodlands by making them economically viable. It also contains no mention of private landowners who play a crucial role in maintaining Rhode Island's forests. Instead, it sets to set up a regulatory framework which will almost certainly negatively impact the private landowner, leading to an outcome which is the opposite of its stated goals. Thank you for allowing me to testify.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. I've been by your land, it's beautiful up there. Very nice, Mr.
Yeah.
Pratt. There's two of them. There's one more towards Connecticut. Very beautiful.
Right, we
property.
have a 250 acre piece with small cranberry bog,
That's right.
and another piece that's well over 1,000 acres with 100 acre cranberry bog. And I think private landowners do, you know, we talk about land trust and the state and everything, but we're forgetting the ability of the private landowner to manage the forest and to keep it healthy.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Pratt? Thank you, Mr. Pratt.
Thank you.
John Gerard, ecoRI.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is John Gerard. I am the Vice President for Policy of the Environment Council of Rhode Island, or ecoRI. ecoRI is a coalition of 60 environmental organizations and individuals. We support this bill and urge the members of the committee to vote in favor. Recent events in Rhode Island have highlighted the need to enact protection for Rhode Island's woodlands. The potential loss of critical habitat that would occur during the construction of the proposed fracked gas power plant and related grid connection projects has been a concern for ecoRI and its members since the project's inception. And as we've already heard, the sudden onset of the state's solar industry boom has also endangered our forest resources. And many of our members have been engaged in an ongoing discussion about how to protect valuable woodland and open space, while at the same time incentivizing renewable energy project development to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. This bill recognizes the importance of our state's woodlands to this unique ecology we find here in Rhode Island, the health and well-being of our residents, and not insignificantly, our ability to fight climate change and meet the emissions reductions goals that this legislature has set out in the Resilient Rhode Island Act. ecoRI has a long history of advocating for the protection of our state's most vulnerable and critical habitats. Our woodland areas currently meet both of these designations, vulnerable and critical. And we urge passage of the bill, which would just provide some guidance and some guidelines to towns and cities for safeguarding these resources in the future. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Barat? Thank you, Mr. Barat. Our next three witnesses will be Paul Roselli, Coreyville Land Trust, Jeffrey Henderson, looks like SJP Wood Service, Amy Moses is just written testimony only, Hedfer Schaefer, Rhode Island. What is it? Peter Schaefer, I don't know what that says. Letter only, written testimony. Albert Bettencourt. Okay, Mr. Roselli.
Great, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Paul Roselli with the Coralville Land Trust and the Rhode Island Association of Conservation Commissions. I'll be speaking on behalf of the Land Trust for this bill. We are in support of the bill. The mission of the Coralville Land Trust is to preserve and protect the rural character of the town of Coralville. But our mission is more than just the 212 acres that we own. We look at the entire state and the regions, particularly the region at the northwest corner of Rhode Island, because what this bill does is for the first time looks at forests in terms of a watershed view and a 50,000 foot view. But in essence, there are three main reasons why we're supporting this bill. House Bill 5813 finally supports and bolsters principles of Section 17 of the Rhode Island Constitution. In that Section 17, it talks about fishery rights and shore privileges. But further into that description of what is protected is the statement that says, control and regulation of the use of natural resources of the state for preservation, regeneration, and restoration. This bill will finally say to that Rhode Island Constitution that forests make a difference. And that plays into the second part and second reason why we support this bill. It finally levels the playing field with lakes, streams and rivers, wetlands and coastal areas. It provides some protection to something that we've been taking for granted for these last 300-400 years that we've been around in this area. It was mentioned earlier about the value of these properties, and even under an open space, what you might call as a nonprofit status, doesn't pay any taxes. A small organization like the Harleville Land Trust provides services that the town cannot provide. We provide the capacity for everything from walking tours to mitigation strategies to helping out with our zoning and planning departments in our town planning. Those kind of services the town, at least the town of Harleville, can't provide because of capacity and the taxes that don't pay for those services. And finally, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we're a small organization. We have limited resources for protection of our own properties, our own 212 acres of property. What this bill helps us do is provide us with those protections. So with that, thank you very much for your time, and both the Land Trust and the Association supports this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to hear testimony before we ask questions of these three witnesses, and let's make things more easily. The next one is Jeffrey Henderson from SJP Wood Service. Do I hear it?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you folks for listening to me. I'm not used to being before such an august board. I own and operate JP Wood Service. I've been a logging contractor in the state of Rhode Island for the past 35 years. I'd like to bring to your attention the fact that Mr. Pratt did address. None of this addresses the private landowner and the way that they already manage their lands. There are quite a few landowners in our state with 25, 50, 75, 100 acres of forest land. They hire a professional forester to draw up a management plan that's submitted to the state of Rhode Island to be approved of by the state forester. Before any logging work is done on the property, the state forester comes and inspects the proposed job site, makes sure we're going to comply with all the best management practices available to us to protect the air, protect the water, protect the soil. Harvesting can actually increase the value of the timber that's left over because it can grow more vigorously. Generally speaking, all of our clients perform what's known as TSI, which is timber stand improvement. We take the poorer quality trees, we leave the better growing stock. These people rely on a little bit of income that comes from this property to help defray the property taxes that they do pay. Now, being understood that they are on, generally speaking, on farm, forest, and open space tax base, which lowers their tax rate. However, 100 acres of forest land demands nothing from the community. The first dollar it contributes is $1 to the good. I'd also like to address the fact that many of the speakers here like to address or refer to the idea of recommendations. I refer to you here. It says provisions of this act may be enforced by means of an action in the Superior Court seeking either injunctive relief or a writ of mandamus or both. Now, I don't know how you folks talk up here, but back in Exeter, that's a little more than a recommendation. That's a demand. When we start talking about the land that's to be regulated, they define forest land or woodland as 40,000 square feet of tree property. That's less than a house lot. How small of an area are you going to give the state jurisdiction over and final say about how this land should be dealt with? It also talks about combining private property for their own use. If it amounted to more than 250 acres, if one neighbor has 100, another neighbor has 100, and another neighbor has 100, and it has special qualities, well, now we're going to treat that differently. It all amounts, in my opinion, to a taking without compensation. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. You can, any suggestions or amendments that you may have, you can always present them to the clerk, and they will be looked at, and if they're good, we'll use them.
If I may, my recommendation would be, if you're worried about solar fields, or you're worried about a gas line, address that directly, and leave private land management to the people who've been doing it for generations.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Betancourt, now remember, we're on 3 minutes, and when we go over, you're affecting the last person, the next person in line, and we gotta show consideration. Mr. Betancourt.
I'm here just representing myself and my wife. We live in Burrowville, Rhode Island, which we consider to be God's country.
Sure. Mike on?
Yeah, it is. Like I said, we consider Burrowville to be God's country, and one of the reasons it's God's country is because of all the beautiful forest land that we have there. Now, my understanding of this bill is that it's going to establish some kind of a commission to study recommendations that are going to be made to the state of Rhode Island to try to preserve woodland. I don't see what's wrong with that idea at all. I consulted with the Rhode Island Farm Bureau this morning. I'm not here speaking on behalf of the Farm Bureau, but I did consult with them this morning. And they said initially they were against the bill, but now they just want to keep an eye on it and see how things progress. And again, I don't see anything wrong with forming a commission to study recommendations to make to try to preserve woodland.
We do have somebody from the Farm Bureau going to testify.
Oh, good.
Any questions for Mr. Betancourt? Or any of the other gentlemen? I'm so sorry. I'm new at this, as you can tell. No questions? Yes. Speaker Kennedy.
Al, first of all, nice to see you as always. But that's not what this bill does. This is not to create a study commission. If this was to create a study commission, this would be about 1 page long, and it would say a study commission consisting of X number of people, so many from the House, so many from the Senate, so many from whatever specific agency will create a study commission to look at this issue. This goes well beyond what a study commission does.
Any further questions? Representative McLaughlin.
Yes, the gentleman who actually takes care of the woods and stuff like that. My area of concern, I don't know what yours would be, is basically the thing out of woodlands. And up north, we're having a big problem with, like you said, trees growing and stuff like that. Old trees that just serve no purpose, where you get them out, buried. And I called the state, and I was almost horrified when I found out the state has one arbor, one person in DEM. Would you believe that? That is an expert on.
You'd be surprised what I believe from DEM.
I'm I was actually stunned. So, in the legislation, I'd like to, or I'd like for any rep to actually include myself to actually look at the people that make the laws, okay, provide enough personnel to actually make forestries and, wetlands.
Well, what you have to realize is the vast majority of the forest and woodland in our state is privately owned. The state is not going to do anything for us. All they can do is harm us.
Well, this is in reference to cities and towns that have.
Yeah. That doesn't fall under our purview.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Any other questions? Thank you. I was mistaken. Peg Sweeney has sent in a letter. She's from Rhode Island Farm Bureau, and she is in favor of this bill.
Right.